Now it's my opportunity to introduce Chancellor Ronnie Green.
Well, thank you very much, Pat. It's great to be here today, and like you heard Shelley and Amber also say, it's great to see you here after 2 years of sitting at the end of a long table and looking at you in ether, so to speak. Even though, Kim, it was wonderful to be with you, this is much better. Let's just put it that way. So it is great to see you all. I have not had the chance to get around and visit the tables as I like to do at events like this, but I hope I'll get a chance to say hello to any of you before you leave today. Isn't it fitting that we're at the International Quilt Museum and that Pat Cruz is your president? How more fitting could that be? I know you all know Pat's leadership in the Quilt Museum and what it has become, and her legacy here as well. So it's just so fitting. Pat, I couldn't help but think that when you stood up here. Wow, it's just so fitting. And congratulations, Barbara, on the Doc Elliott Award. We are honored for you to receive that award for your accomplishments as a faculty member here at the university. So again, let's give Barbara a big round of applause. So I will try to keep my comments short, but I do have a lot of things I want to update you on about your university. So we are in our 153rd year as the People's University of Nebraska here. We'll be 154 here in a few months in February when we celebrate Charter Day in 2023. We continue to have our mission very focused in our tripartite mission of education, research and creative activity, and engagement with all of the citizens of the state of Nebraska. And I am very proud of the fact that we continue to have that land-grant mission as our focus as an institution, even all these years later from our founding. We have, in the education mission, had an interesting time in the last few years as we have come through this global pandemic. We have graduated 3 record classes in the history of this institution with new degree holders from UNL in the last 4 years. So 3 of the last 4, we have had record graduating classes, including the class that we graduated in May of this year in 2022. That's the good news, because it's been wonderful to see that happen and see those students, in many ways, sped up in their educational pursuits. Many students finished earlier than they would have anticipated finishing during COVID because they took more courses during the pandemic as we saw that play out. This past May, we actually saw a record number of graduate degrees, PhD degrees granted. Now that was, I will tell you, a little bit of a catch-up, a little bit of compensatory growth. Chuck Hibbard in animal science terms is a little bit of compensatory effect from the fact that students were slowed down to a degree in the pandemic, and there was some catch-up that happened in those graduates in May of this year completing their doctorates in that commencement. Enrollment-wise, I know you read the papers as well as I do and see that our enrollment is slightly down currently this year. While we've graduated record numbers of students in 3 of those last 4 years, we've brought in roughly the same number of new first-time students during that period until this year, when we were slightly down in our incoming freshman class of undergraduates, and we were down in graduate student enrollment this year, which is a nationwide phenomenon that higher ed is experiencing currently around graduate student enrollment across the country. Our goal for this coming fall in 2023 will be to see that enrollment trend flip, if you will, and go back up. We're hoping a 2.5% increase in enrollment for fall of 2023 is our goal. And to be back at, as an institution, a 25,000 student kind of baseline. We're currently just under 24,000 in our enrollment this year. We've instituted a new data science major that is a new endeavor for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, not only in the subject matter of data science, but in the fact that it's being administered by 3 departments. So it is an interdisciplinary major between the School of Computing in the College of Engineering, the Department of Mathematics in the College of Arts and Sciences, and the Department of Statistics in the Institute of Ag and Natural Resources. So we're excited about that new major and what that will bring. And then we're also very excited about our experiential learning portfolio requirement for our undergraduate students. Our current strategic plan calls for every student who graduates from UNL by 2025, a few years out from where we sit today, to have completed experiential learning in terms of a paid internship, global experience, and research undergraduate experience at the institution. And I'm very pleased that now across all of our colleges that requirement has been instituted and is now actively underway for our students moving forward. This is Research Week at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Many of you remember that fondly and well. You know, which pen were you going to get from Prim this year, so to speak. So it is Research Week at UNL. We're excited about that being underway. Research and creative activity at your institution reached another record last year. And I want to just draw a line under that, because I can't tell you how unusual that was during the pandemic. During the pandemic, many institutions scaled back their research efforts by necessity, in many cases, from being able to continue moving forward at the level that they were accustomed to, and scaled back and lost some ground in research expenditures. We in fact held and went slightly up last year in our total research expenditures, and are very, very pleased about that. We particularly have seen significant increases in support for creative activity in the humanities, and I just wanted to point that out, where it's kind of interesting for you to be the Doc Elliott Award today, where we're seeing significant support from entities like the Mellon Foundation, like the National Endowment for the Humanities, and supporting a number of our humanities efforts. We just this year have instituted the first $10 million of funding in our grand challenges, the 7 grand challenge areas for research across the institution. That's to be followed by 3 successive years, this year and the next 3, of an additional $10 million of funding in those areas, and we're excited about that as well. And then this past year, we again moved up in the rankings internationally in the institutions in terms of the number of patents, U.S. patents that were produced by our institution. We're now 64th in the world. That is a big accomplishment, especially for an institution of our size, up from 77th last year. 25 patents from UNL this past year contributing to that accomplishment. Nebraska Innovation Campus, you may have seen a little bit of blip on this last week, celebrated its 10th anniversary from initial groundbreaking on last Thursday. I remember really well, it was a day just like this one, when we broke ground on what is now the conference center, the renovation of the former 4-H facility at this time of year. And to see that now in its 25-year trajectory be at a point of nearly 600,000 square feet of completed innovation space on the campus, and on track to be at 900,000 square feet by 2025 with some of the planning that is underway there now. 58 partners at Innovation Campus, including a number of new startup companies that are part of that mix. A hotel, I hope you have been to the Scarlet Hotel. If you haven't, you need to go. The food is great. It's not quite as good as Wahadi's food today. Give him a big round of applause for that. But that Scarlet Hotel, Marjorie Kostelnik, is now going to be the home for our hotel restaurant tourism management program in the College of Education and Human Sciences. So a real learning living laboratory, if you will, that is there as well. Most exciting at Nebraska Innovation Campus is the development of a new national USDA lab that is in the development phase with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Agricultural Research Service. I have a little fondness for this. I'm an old ARS administrator from earlier in my life in Washington, and to see that happening and to see it focused in an area for agriculture that is so pivotally important moving forward in precision agriculture, resilient and regenerative precision agriculture, is exciting. We are hopeful that in the next 2 cycles federally, that we'll be able to get the remainder of the funding support in the federal budget to complete that facility. Will be 60 federal scientists located in that national lab, and actually is currently a little bigger than the U.S. Meat Animal Research Center, staffing-wise is, which is one of the biggest USDA labs in the country. And we hope that to be under construction in the 2026 kind of time frame ahead for the campus. Equally exciting about that is that it will be the only lab in the USDA system that will have a commercial tech transfer arm with the university attached to it. So you may have seen in the last legislative session, the Nebraska legislature appropriated $25 million as matching funds for us to equal with $25 million of private funding to build this companion tech transfer facility that will be part of that national USDA lab facility. I'm looking for $25 million, so anybody out there that's got it, talk to me afterwards. And then we also mentioned and celebrated last Thursday in that 10th anniversary celebration, Dan Duncan, who I know many of you know, is retiring. Dan is retiring in February after a long length of service in a number of different capacities with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Remember him well running the ARD, Ag Research Division facilities across our state when we had appointed him in 2012 to be the champion for Innovation Campus and became its initial executive director that he's held for these last 10 years. So we certainly celebrated Dan's leadership. He's the person that has made what has happened at Innovation Campus these last 10 years happen. I say this every time I get an opportunity to say it, and I really want to say it to you. This institution currently is blessed with one of the best teams of academic leaders anywhere in the country. We have a dean corps that is phenomenal at this point in time, and we are so blessed to have their leadership here. You know many of them, but we have also added this year Andy Belzer as the new dean for the Hickson Lee College of Fine and Performing Arts, and Andy is already hitting it out of the park, I will tell you that. Point blank, Amber knows what I'm talking about. And so we're very pleased to have him join our team. Charlie Stoltenau replaced this guy over here with the beard, Chuck Hibbard. When he retired as the Dean of Nebraska Extension, Charlie joined us this past year as the leader of Nebraska Extension. And then we just recently named a new Dean of the College of Architecture, who will join us beginning of the year. And I have to read his name because it's a complicated one. Kevin Van Den Wijmelenberg. I've got to practice that one. So we're very pleased to have Kevin coming to us from the University of Oregon to lead our College of Architecture. You'll remember Kathy Ankerson, who had been the Dean of the College of Architecture, became the Executive Vice Chancellor in January of this past year, and is also doing an excellent job for us in that leadership role. We are soon to name a new Vice Chancellor of Business and Finance, and we're in the final stages of that decision-making process to lead our business and finance operations, so keep your ears tuned on that one. But we just have great leaders here at this institution. It's really hard for me as the chancellor to realize I've been in this job 7 years, and boy, I'm telling you, I go get my hair cut shorter every time to get rid of the gray. And then lastly, I know you sense this when you're on our campuses. We're in a period of building growth. I thought 2012, 13, 14, remembering that time period when a lot of building was happening at UNL was big. There were a lot of cranes around and a lot of cranes in downtown Lincoln. You'll remember that PBA was being built, the Haymarket was being developed. There was just a lot of building in that time frame. We're in the kind of the middle of a bigger time frame now. So if you look at what has occurred in our building projects, either in what we have just completed in the last 18 months, and look forward to what will happen by 2025, it is over $1 billion of investment in the University of Nebraska-Lincoln campuses. So this year alone, Carolyn Pope Edwards Hall, the new home for our College of Education and Human Sciences early childhood programs, in particular, and TLTE programs, opened. Classic state-of-the-art, world-class facility for CEHS with support from the state of Nebraska. We have not had many buildings that we've been able to build in recent memory with support from the state to do that. And this was one where that was the case. And we're very, very thankful for what it's going to mean for our College of Education and Human Sciences. And I'm so pleased that it bears the name of Carolyn Pope Edwards and her legacy here at the university and her legacy in the field of early childhood education. We dedicated a new Veterans Tribute, and if you have not seen that Veterans Tribute, I encourage you to go see it at night. It is a fabulous tribute to all veterans in Nebraska that was completed on Memorial Mall, right in front of Military and Naval Sciences and the SAP Coliseum. Go see that. It's a beautiful new tribute to our veterans that we dedicated on 9/11. The Barclay Center renovation and addition is now in the final stages of being completed and occupied here just on East Campus. The naming of our Human Sciences facility being renamed just across the way here to the Gwendolyn A. Newkirk Human Sciences Building in honor of former Dean Newkirk, who we all know so well. The Scarlet I've already mentioned, hotel that opened in April. The Law College, completely renovated Schmid Law Library, all 3 floors of that facility, privately funded $4.5 million renovation of that space. Architecture, the oldest building on city campus, right, is Architecture Hall. And the original library of UNL, as we would know it, right? So the original stacks of the library, that north side of Architecture Hall, has been renovated into world-class design studio space for our architecture students that opened this fall. Hamilton Hall has now renovated all of its teaching chemistry labs in the last 4 years, and the last phase of that was completed this year. The Go Big Athletics project, that big monstrous building on the northeast corner of Memorial Stadium, is on schedule to open in June. $165 million facility for football and all of our student athletes for life skills, academic support, and training table facilities. Keywood Hall, I remember so well when the College of Business Hawks Hall building was being built. I just remember it because it was being finished when I started as chancellor, and I was getting the calls that said, "How dare you build a building that obstructs my view when I come up Vine Street at Memorial Stadium?" I'll never forget that one. So now when I drive into campus, coming from the south, I drive in on 17th Street. And now my view is Keywood Hall at the north end of what used to be 17th Street. Being completed there at 17th and Vine. It's the largest single building project in our institution's history. $115 billion new academic facility for the College of Engineering, all instructional. It's a complete teaching facility for the College of Engineering. and all privately funded. The foundation helped us raise the dollars to support the construction of that facility to be open the end of this calendar year, this next calendar year, 2023. The Scott Engineering Center rebuild is now almost complete. That was also a state-funded project, $75 million. The Engineering Research Center is an addition to that we opened last year as new research space for the College of Engineering, and the internal Old Scott Engineering Center is now being renovated for completion in March of '24. And then we were so lucky, and I give Ted Carter the credit for this because he really did a fabulous job of thinking about how to make this happen with the state of Nebraska, to figure out how to get this backlog of deferred maintenance that we have across our facilities, which is huge. I won't tell you, it's just a huge backlog. Figure out a way to finance that and to get the state and the university support sustainably to allow that to happen for the next 50-year time period ahead. And we were able to get that done with the legislature last year as well, that commits out through 2062 a way for us to handle deferred maintenance across all of the University of Nebraska campuses. We're the biggest piece of that deferred maintenance, as you would understand, at UNL because of our history. We now have the first $160 million of those projects underway, which includes renovation of Kimball Recital Hall, includes the building of a new building for the Glencore School of Music. So we're taking Westbrook, we're retiring Westbrook, and we're taking it down, and we'll start construction on a completely new music facility on that site here in the next few months. Military and naval science. We no longer finally will have no air conditioners hanging out of the windows of that building in the middle of our campus, getting an opportunity to renovate that facility. Bessie Hall, Morrill Hall, Nyhart Hall, all underway with plans for those renovations to occur in 23, 24, and 25. The Lead Center, we have the funding now largely in place to add an addition to the Lead Center, a new entrance for the Lead Center, new box office, new studio theater to be added to the Lead Center, and we're in the final stages of wrapping up the major gift that will allow that to happen. There will be a new $25 million, roughly, maybe a little more, Mike Zelling, $1 million project for renovation of the Lead Center moving forward. So you can tell how it's just a lot. And it's a big investment in the institution's future long-term that we haven't been able to make in a long time. And then the last thing I will say, and Amber leaned over when she sat back down and said, I know you're going to talk about this, aren't you? On Friday, we will publicly announce the University of Nebraska Foundation's next campaign. We have privately, silently been in this campaign for the last 5 years. You'll remember these are 10-year campaigns. The last one, the Campaign for Nebraska, ended in 2014, 2015 timeframe. That campaign raised $1.9 billion across the university system. This campaign is being titled Only in Nebraska. It will be announced on Friday night, so we have an event with our trustees on Friday night for the kickoff of the campaign. We have a time with our campuses Friday afternoon to talk about what we can anticipate a little bit in the campaign ahead. It is a huge campaign. Take the last one and about double it, and you'll get some idea of the size of the campaign. I am so pleased, as you heard Amber talk a little bit about this past year and the past few years of records the institution has had, that we are already, I'll say this and then I'll get in trouble. We already are at $836 million for UNL in that campaign, which is more than we raised in the entire campaign in the previous campaign for Nebraska. So you can do the math. I will tell you that's about 60% of our goal. So I've said it and I'm going to say it. But it's going to enable us to do so many things that we currently can't do. The biggest single driver in that campaign is student support. It's not buildings, it's not capital construction, it's support for students, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. It's a new focus in this campaign, particularly on graduate students, and support for graduate students as well. So I know you'll hear a lot more about that, but we're excited to be at that point of being able to publicly launch the campaign for these next 5 years to bring that future in for the state of Nebraska and its university. The last thing I'll mention, and I intentionally saved it for last because I won't say a lot about it, but I know there's a lot of conversation out there. I understand that we've had at least 3 football coaches at one time for several days. You know, we are in a transition period in leadership for our football program, of course. But I only mention athletics here because not only of its importance to this institution, both historically and on an ongoing basis, but athletics is under a tremendous time of upheaval. And I'm not referring to Nebraska athletics. I'm talking more globally at the intercollegiate athletics level. While I knew I would spend a lot of time on athletics before I took this job, I never anticipated how much that might be. Because of this evolution that we're in currently. I sit on the NCAA Presidential Forum. I represent the Big Ten on that Presidential Forum currently. And the whole model is changing before our eyes. I don't think any of us have grasped quite yet what that model is going to look like a few years from now. So you know, we are well positioned here at the University of Nebraska to participate in that model, but it is going to be different. I just want you to know, NIL, name, image, and likeness, is just the beginning of what that change is going to look like longer term. And I will close by saying, and I think you can all appreciate this, thank God we're in the Big Ten. Not only athletically, but academically, certainly, but it is a good place to be for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So I talked longer, Pat, than you probably wanted me to, but I don't get the opportunity to see your bright, shining faces very often. Thank you for what you do to support your university. This university is built on your shoulders and those of your colleagues who came before us. So thank you for your continued investment and what your belief is in this institution. This is a tremendously impactful institution. And thank you so much for your support of it. Thank you.